The Mandalorian Season 3 has arrived. Star Wars has not really been lighting the world on fire for a lot of people, but the one constant, the one consistently good thing has been The Mandalorian. But it's got some big shoes to fill. Now, I did watch Mandalorian Season 3, it would be Chapter 17, Episode 1, last night, and I didn't do my review then because, quite honestly, I fell asleep. Not during the episode. I saw the entire episode. I fell asleep afterward. I thought I was going to be out for just a few minutes, and I was out for a few hours. It was late. It is what it is. But here's my thoughts on Chapter 17. So, unlike the previous Season 2 premiere, because we have to compare it to other premieres, obviously. This one didn't really light my world on fire. I don't think it was necessarily a bad episode or anything like that, but it definitely didn't feel like the season premiere that I think a lot of us were expecting after what they did last year. If you remember, well, 2 years ago, if you remember last season, they opened it with the big shocking reveal at the end of the episode that Boba Fett was indeed alive. And that would, of course, segue into later in the season, the final 3 episodes, when we saw Boba not only help out Mando, but obviously set up his own series, The Book of Boba Fett. At the beginning of this episode, though, they had to make sure for all those people who did not see The Book of Boba Fett, or those who gave up on it before episodes 5 and 6, they could see what actually happened with, Din Djarin, with the Mandalorian and his appearance in that show, because that is segueing without question into the story of this show and this season. This episode was really meant to set up what the season is pretty much going to be about, and that is basically the Mandalorian trying to atone for his sin of removing his mask. You're not supposed to do that if you're a Mandalorian. And he wants to go to Mandalore to do it. The problem is that Mandalore fell a long time ago, and it's not the same place of legend, as they say. Of course, he goes to see Bo-Katan, who, at this point, when I was watching it, I thought that this season was going to be about reclaiming Mandalore from the Imperial Remnant. At least that's what, would make the most sense, or, would make sense. But at least with this episode, Bo-Katan does not seem to be that interested. But I feel like that's only temporary. I think they're doing this as a purposeful subversion, and that at some point she'll want to reclaim Mandalore, probably by the end of the season. I would guess. We also have season 4, which Favreau said he's already working on. So the story's not going to end just here with season 3. Although at the very least, the story of Din Djarin being reaccepted by the Mandalorians, that very well could happen. Now, this first episode, well, most of the episodes actually have Jon Favreau, well, all the episodes have Jon Favreau either writing or co-writing it. This one in particular, though, directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who's kind of known as a TV writer. He would write and direct television shows, but he definitely brought that experience over to The Mandalorian. Obviously, it's not Star Wars what he wrote, but nevertheless, it worked here. And Favreau's fingerprints are all over this. I mean, it definitely feels like that grounded Star Wars story that we all appreciated from previous iterations and previous seasons. Now, it was good to see Carl Weathers back, of course. Always a good time to see Carl Weathers. I mean, I just got done doing my Creed marathon and my Rocky marathon, which tonight I'm going to go see Creed 3, so I'll have a review up here on the channel in just a few hours. Stay tuned for that. Non-spoiler. Of course, the spoiler review will be out tomorrow for Creed 3. But I've seen the dude a lot lately, is what I'm saying, and it's good to have him back here, the focal point of this first episode, The Apostate, Chapter 17. So to go into a bit more detail, if you remember the Book of Boba Fett's events, and they recap it here, the Mandalorian unmasking or taking off his helmet is forbidden. It's sacrilege in the eyes of his tribe, and so he has to go bathe in the waters beneath the planet's surface to redeem himself. But the surface of the planet was damaged, and it's not that simple. So he tries to go first to Navarro to get the help of Grief Karga, which is Carl Weathers' character, to help him accomplish this goal. He needs the IG, or is it G11? I thought it was IG11, but the IG11 android, the one that protected Grogu in the first season. I don't know if y'all remember this. This is all the way back in season 1. He needs that droid, but the droid was destroyed. But there are still some parts that Grief had around of the droid. So they took that and those parts and made it into a statue. And Din Djarin is trying to rebuild the droid to help him with his mission. So again, he's doing the loner thing. They're going back to season 1 stuff, which I did appreciate because season 2 kind of went its own way. And now it seems to be tying together a lot better. Pedro Pascal, of course, playing Din Djarin. No unmasking in this episode. It's just his voice and I guess his body language, doing the gunslinger Old West character. Carl Weathers' voice is just perfect for like anime villain character modeling voices or whatever. Like characters that are like angry and like evil, his voice is really good at. He's got that gruffy old wizard voice, and I respect that about him because I love that actor. So, good stuff. Good stuff. It's funny because Grief tries to recruit him to be the new marshal. And when that happened, I was thinking to myself, well, what happened to the other marshal? The Book of Boba Fett, the post-credit scene teased that he might still be around. Will that be a factor going into some later episodes of this season? That remains to be seen. I did love the scene where they first show Mando in that Naboo starfighter just blasting people. Like, I love that early scene in the episode. So anyways, he goes to see Bo-Katan, and Bo-Katan talks about how she lost some of her support because she doesn't have the Darksaber. Remember, the Darksaber is very important. If you don't know about that, not only is it talked about in previous Mandalorian seasons, but you really want to watch Rebels because they really talk a lot about the Darksaber there. In Rebels, there's a lot of discussion about it. So she finds out that he has the Darksaber, so it's almost like they're teasing that at some point they're going to have Bo-Katan and Din Djarin actually be enemies. It almost feels like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like they might actually be building to a confrontation between them later on this season. I think a lot of people are going to crap on this episode because it's not as action-packed and doesn't have as much going for it as the season 2 premiere, and that's certainly the case, but I think that this season premiere still, I know that people were criticizing its length. It was too short. Some would say I didn't think it was too short. I thought, the length they gave it was fine. I feel like people are going to dislike it comparing it to the previous season, but I also agree that season 2's premiere was probably better overall. It was definitely a lot more fun, a lot more enjoyable based on all the things that they had to do with that Tatooine dragon and all that. It was all good stuff, but I feel like this one still did what it was supposed to do, which is sort of tell us where Mandalorian is going, and it's focusing on him, not so much people around him like some of the other episodes did in the past. So we'll see where it goes. I think there's going to be some other characters being introduced to spice up the show. Overall, though, it's one of those let's wait and see things. And the only reason why I'm even like being so confident about it and so, forthright about waiting for it to get better is because of how good the first 2 Mandalorian seasons were. Because of how good Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni's team have been, right? So if the first episode's a little slow, I don't think it means the whole season's going to be slow. They're going to obviously build up to something, and they've delivered in the past. So yes, it wasn't as impactful as the season 2 premiere, but it still did what it was supposed to do, and I do still look forward to future episodes. Anyways, I'll be back tonight with my Creed review. Take care. See you then.